Let's deal with solipsism. Actually, before I go to solipsism, I want to talk about jealousy as it relates to humans' promiscuity, because a lot of people, men included, like a lot of white knights will do this too, but a lot of people will paint society with the same brush. Oh, if men do it, women can do it too. You hear these women like, well, if guys are gonna, go and bang other girls, then I should be able to do it too. It's like, I'm gonna have a notch count if they're gonna have a notch count. Well, it's like, if you want to, but the reality is, if you got a high notch count as a chick, then you make an incredibly poor choice for a high value guy, for a top shelf man to choose you for trophy wife material. Okay. They just don't choose women like that typically, unless they're totally blue pilled and blind to the reality of the world. Women and men do not operate by the same rule book. If you haven't noticed, stand in front of a mirror naked beside your woman or any chick and take a look at the build of your bodies, and you'll recognize men and women are in fact very different. Our sexual strategies are in fact different. They're not the same, and women and men can't do the same things, right? I mean, the difference is you could list them for miles. Men have more upper body strength, like 2/3 more upper body strength than women. Women's leg strength is closer, to men's, but it's still not even the same as on par as men's. There's a lot of differences between men. I mean, the obvious, women can have babies, men can't, despite what, the social, narrative is saying with, I don't know, all these ads now, like, oh, men can menstruate too. Really? Okay. Anyway, we're going to stay away from those topics, but men and women get jealous for different reasons. Men get jealous because they fear paternity. Men are more concerned with what she's doing on an intimate level. They're not that concerned if she's talking to Kevin from sales. She's porking Kevin from sales. That's something he's going to have a problem with. Women, on the other hand, have more of a problem if you're talking to, I don't know, what's the chick's version? Cindy, Sheila, whatever. If you're talking to Sheila from the HR department, okay, if you're porking her too, that's of course going to be a problem. But she has a lot more concern with anything that might escalate into intimacy. Men have a lot more concern with any kind of intimacy itself. The conversation piece, not a big deal. And the reason for that is because women, when they're pregnant, have 100% assurance of paternity. They know the child is theirs. Men, on the other hand, as a function of evolution, and because women cuck men constantly throughout history, and if you're not familiar with cuck or cuckoldry, all that means is she's taken on the seed of another man, but convinces the schlep that it's his kid. So she takes on usually the premier genetic investment of a better male, like an alpha male, and then finds some beta to pay the bills and raise this dude's kid. So that's what cuckoldry is. But men, on the other hand, again, they get jealous because they don't have 100% assurance of paternity. So they want to make sure that their woman is sexually exclusive to them if they're going to invest in them. Women, on the other hand, are more concerned with provisioning resources and protection. They're not so concerned with where he's parking his wiener, right? And that's part of the reason why you'll hear throughout the TRP community, women are okay to share a high value alpha. They'd rather do that, in fact, than be straddled with a faithful loser. It's why you see women choose to date and go out with married men. Like, they would rather date a guy that lives with their wife than a guy that lives in their mom's basement. That's just how women are, right? High value guy, he's already been mate selected by somebody else. There's social proof. She'll go out with a married guy before she goes out with a guy living in his mom's basement at the same age, making no money. That's just how women behave. So you have to understand these innate behaviors when it comes to loyalty. Because when I see guys that are like, well, I want big boobs and a bum, and she has to be loyal. It's like, you're starting off from the wrong point here. Okay. You have to understand female nature and stop, expecting women to be loyal forever and ever until kingdom come, because they're only as loyal as their options. Right. And you'll hear a lot of the guys in, more of the MGTOW communities talk about that. And I agree with everything that they observe. My solution to the problem is often different than that. So just get your head around it is what I'm saying here. Now, the last thing that drives their choices, what are we at? We're almost at the 30-minute mark. Let me grab the link so you guys can start piling in and ask questions, because that sometimes takes a little bit. And I know some of you come in a little late, so ask a question. So make sure you got headphones, wired headphones or something, so the audio is good and a decent connection. And when you come in, there's a private chat. Let me know what your question is in the private chat so I can sort through that and get to the ones more relevant to to the topic, or ones that I think that might be interesting to talk about anyway. Here's a link. The new female voice is solid. Thanks, Steve. You like that voice? All right. So solipsism. Solipsism is straightforward. Here, let me get the definition here for her. Let's get her clean. Solipsism. Find a dictionary term, but I'll expand on it a little bit more. Is the physiological idea that only one's mind is sure to exist. There was a better definition than that. What is a solipsistic person? A solipsistic person is a person that only believes their mind or self is sure to exist. Individuals experiencing solipsism syndrome feel reality is not real in the sense of being internal for their own mind. The syndrome is characterized by feelings of loneliness, detachment, and indifference to the outside world. It doesn't define it as it relates to women. The thing that you understand, see, it really just boils down to this. When it comes to solipsism in women, all that means is they can't see past their own nose, which is why you hear me say things like women don't care about a man's struggle. They hang out at the finish line and they pick the winner, right? That's a solipsistic behavior. They don't care if you had a prick of a boss who treated you like dog poo-poo and you quit your job because he was a insufferable bastard, right? They don't care because they're solipsistic. They'll hang out at the finish line and they'll pick somebody else because hypergamy, that's just the way that it is. Hypergamy doesn't care. Women are solipsistic. They can't see past their own nose. They don't see anybody else's problems but their own. It's one of the reasons why you don't see women take a lot of ownership when it comes to faults in relationships and breakups and that sort of stuff. They just don't. It's very rare that you hear women say something like, "I'm sorry," and mean it. All right, some of you guys are piling in. Make sure you drop in the private chat what it is your question's about or what you want to ask me. Just helps me sort through a little bit better. So that's solipsism, right? It's why you hear, "Not yours, it's just your turn." New subscriber and bringing on your content. Thanks. Appreciate the super chat, brother. Yeah, that's why you hear it's, "She's not yours, it's just your turn." It's another soundbite that ties into hypergamy, Brefalt's law, and solipsism. So what does all of that mean? How is it that this one or two people, or these one or two couples out there that have been married for 20 years and they're very happy with each other and they're all schmoochy pootsy and all over them, all over each other when you see them? Well, it's usually because the guy managed to continue to chase excellence throughout his entire life, and she felt like her hypergamy was satisfied. That's really what it boils down to, for the most part. I could go through like a social media platform like Facebook, for example, and take a look at all my friends. And I can think of one right now that has had a almost 30-year marriage, and he's still happy with his wife. But he cheated on his wife. She was a pain in the ass a number of times, but they're still all over each other today. She looked the other way when he cheated on her, right? Again, women are okay to share a high-value alpha. They'd rather do that than be saddled with a faithful loser. This guy was a champ. He still is a champ. Chases excellence, puts a dent in the universe, has made huge bank, has literally put a dent in the universe, has done things to impact the world in ways that many of you out there have probably been touched by, especially if you live in the West. I'm not going to get into who he is and what his business is, but you get the idea. These are the types of long-term loyal relationships, where women don't leave the guy. So when you hear, can a woman be loyal? Yes and no. You just have to understand that all of these things that I'm talking about when it comes to hypergamy, solipsism, Brefalt's law, now that you understand it, now that you realize what it is that drives women to mate switching is actually something we can spend a minute or two on too. I have a video on my channel. I think I have the study here still, but there's a mate switching study, which, do I have it in here? Sexual economics, Mommy's Little Secret. Mommy's Little Secret's an interesting one. If you search for Mommy's Little Secret on Google, you'll get some idea of why women. Why are you cheating on Tinder? That's not it. Why women cuck guys and how they get away with it. I don't have it here, but there's a mate switching study. I did a video on my channel at some point. So if you search on my channel, Entrepreneurs in Cars plus mate switching, women will start to indicate mate switching behaviors long before they leave. In fact, 50% of women surveyed. So this is an admission of guilt. When you survey women, they don't want to look bad, right? But this is an admission of guilt when they're going to basically say, yeah, I have a backup plan. So you're relying on them being honest. So some women are going to be honest, some women are going to be dishonest, and they're going to say, no, I don't have a backup plan, even though that they do. But the mate switching study clearly indicates, on a balance of probabilities, more women than not have a backup plan guy lined up. They always have throughout history. And if they didn't, because I mean, you go back 200,000 years, a million years ago, if she wasn't self-interested, if she wasn't solipsistic, if she wasn't hypergamous, her and her children probably would not survive. We live in an environment today where we have the state, which takes care of irresponsible mothers that will get knocked up multiple times by different guys and have, 4 children in tow from 4 different dudes. Doesn't matter. The government will take care of housing, will take care of basic needs. They don't need no man anymore, right? But you go back a million years, it was a death sentence if they were not hypergamous, solipsistic, So just understand these things, right? They're not good or bad. They just are. It's like, how are you going to respond to them now that you know that women aren't particularly loyal or good at loyalty? And there's a vast amount of work that you have to do to keep her in your frame and loyal to you, right? Signs that she's not loyal, there's all kinds. She's working late more. She's having more girls' night outs. She's maybe traveling out of town. Those seem to be the common ones that pop up more often than not whenever I talk to guys on one-on-one coaching sessions, when their marriage falls apart or they found out that she's banging, Kevin from sales, for example. Those are the things that start to pop up. Also, one of the other things that you'll start to notice as a guy is if she's still staying fit and beautiful, taking care of herself, she's going to her yoga classes or whatever, and you're not having any kind of sexual intimacy with her whatsoever, or it's on a very limited basis, that's another good sign that the clock is ticking down to the end of things. And there's any number of things that can go around that. But I wanted to hit this again more from about 25,000 feet of altitude.